Earth science video again. All right, Norris teaches science here. Another Earth science edition video. We're still talking about lithosphere material. If you haven't watched the other videos, please go watch all the other lithosphere videos, including the stuff on volcanoes. But today, I, Mr. Norris, present earthquake basics. I can explain the reason for that earthquakes happen. That's your goal. Now, let me just do a little tidbit. Earthquakes happen all the time. You could be experiencing one right now. It's just so low on measurement that you can't feel it. So, what is an earthquake? An earthquake is a vibration of the earth is produced by a sudden release of energy. A lot of things in science is all about releasing energy. There's movement along a fault line, and these are caused by those transform fault plate boundaries. Volcanoes are more associated with divergent and convergent plate boundaries, while transform fault plate boundaries are more associated with earthquakes. So when we talk about earthquakes, we talk about their parts. You have the focus, which is the point within the earth where the earthquake starts. You have the epicenter, is the location on the surface directly above the focus. And then you have the fault, is the boundary between plates or where the movement's occurring. Now, what is a fault? A fault is a fraction of Earth where movement has taken place. And you can see in this picture over here, this is San Andreas fault, where it is one side's going up, one side's going down. I do want to mention there's this thing about California's going to break off from the United States and all this other stuff. No, it's not. That's not what the plate does. At some point, part of California will be located up northern of where it is located now. So, like Los Angeles is in Southern California, it at some point could be in Northern California. Um, so that's what the fault's doing. Remember, they're going back and forth to each other. They're not moving apart or colliding. Um, Now, when you talk about faults, there's two parts, something called the hanging wall and the footwall, and there's four types of faults. So let's talk a little bit about the parts. The parts, you got the hanging wall. This is for rocks above the fault line. So here's the fault line. All right. And here's the hanging wall, and the footwall is over here, and these are rocks below the fault line. Now, the types of faults, there are four types of faults. First are a normal fault. This is when the hanging wall block moves down relative to the footwall block. You can kind of see that in this picture here. Here's the hanging wall, here's the footwall. It's moving down. A reverse fault is the opposite, when the hanging wall block moves up relative to the foot block. Here's the hanging wall, here's the foot, it moves up, and that would be a reverse fault. A thrust fault is a reverse fault, but it's just at a less than 45 degrees of angle. And a strike slip fault is the movement when it's horizontal parallel to the fault surface. Now, what causes earthquakes? This is our hypothesis about what causes earthquakes. We truly don't know really what causes the earthquakes per se. This is the hypothesis. It's called the elastic rebound hypothesis. What happens is think of it like stretching a rubber band. At some point, you're going to stretch it so far that it breaks and it goes and it bounces back to your hands. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough, it hits your hand and it causes some pain. But that's basically what's happening here. There's a buildup of energy. And when the earthquake happens, it's the release of that buildup energy in a rapid state, trying to get the rocks back to being aligned. Um, so when the strength of the rock is exceeded from being stretched, it suddenly breaks and it causes the vibration of an earthquake. You can see it in this picture here. Here it is. They're being pulled, and then right here, the earthquake happens because there's a release of energy. And this is a little bit about the basics of earthquakes. We're going to talk a little bit more about in the next two videos about earthquakes in a little bit more depth. But I hope you learned a little bit today, and this is Mr. Norris, and he's signing out of this video.